Step into the world of power, loyalty, and luck.
I'm gonna make him an offer he can't refuse.
With family, cannolis, and spins mean everything.
Now, you wanna get mixed up in the family business.
Introducing The Godfather at ChumbaCasino.com. Test your luck in the shadowy world of The Godfather slot.
Someday, I will call upon you to do a service for me.
Play The Godfather now at ChumbaCasino.com.
Welcome to the family.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 18 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
Back with another episode of Keeping Current with Kansas City. This is Thad Bell, Kansas City Soccer Journal. Daniel Sperry is on the other side of the screen that I can see that you can't, from the KC Star. How are you, Mr. Sperry?
Doing well, man. Doing well. Um, Man, it's another crazy week of soccer in Kansas City coming up after a nice, somewhat dull weekend.
Yeah, I know it was very weird. Like, went out to dinner with my wife and did stuff that was not soccer related. Didn't watch soccer too much. So,
Yeah, actually, we did soccer with our daughter, and then spent most of the day just it was great. It was like, oh, when do we want to make dinner? Oh, maybe this time sounds good. Oh, maybe we'll do this. We'll go over to the park for a few hours. Like that routine has not been able to be part of my weekends for so long during the course of this season. So to have a weekend like that before this next chaotic week, is pretty good.
yeah, sporting on Wednesday, current on Friday, sporting on Saturday. U20 women on Wednesday,
Hmm.
national team facing
Yep.
North Korea, who is pretty damn good apparently.
Yeah, apparently.
Kind of surprising
So,
me, but Claire Hutton's been a big part of that until this last match. But
yep.
that she was in concussion protocol. Don't know if she'll be out of it for the next match. But did you watch the ending of that game? Did you watch that game?
So I saw that Germany scored. I just finished up like nighttime routine, I guess, and I was like, all right, I'm gonna pop back on the couch and watch the end of the NFL game, which the Bears were gonna lose. So I kind of knew the outcome, and I was like, oh, maybe I'll switch over to the U20s. They're still playing. I looked, and at that time, Germany had gone up 2-0 in stoppage time, and I was like, oh, okay, well, whatever. So I was not watching it live, but as like I couldn't get it pulled up fast enough after the first goal for the US before Ali Sentinor tied it. So it was just it was a whirlwind, but it was awesome. I didn't watch it as it happened because I had little faith that something would happen, and as most did as well.
Yeah, I'll be honest. I had it up on one screen while I was working on the other computer doing some photos or something, and so I was kind of watching it, and then it's like, oh man, down 2-0. I'm like, well, I'll just see it out, see how it goes, and
Hmm.
then boom and boom and holy smoke, man! This is one of the few times I've actually felt sorry for an opponent. So
Yeah,
the German keeper was just bawling after the game, and they were just devastated.
yeah,
But sorry, not so sorry. But anyway, they advanced to play North Korea, which will be tomorrow from when we're recording this. It'll be the same day as probably when I actually get this released. But I'll probably watch a little bit of that before heading off to the sporting game.
yep, same.
More importantly, at the
Hmm.
moment, because this is a keeping current with Kansas City pod, uh, off of last weekend, current got a nice draw in Orlando. Not the win that they were hoping for, but it was a good result. What'd you think of it,
Yeah,
man?
I thought. Um, so I was at a farewell party for Aaron Ladd last night, of Channel 41, and the conversation got struck up. Being the only soccer guy there was the Casey Current, and I was lamenting and well reciprocated to the fact that this game didn't live up to the hype in terms of like highlight reel content. However, it is a good result, and the soccer sicko in me says there was a lot of really good battles to watch on the field. Like I
There
loved
was.
watching a lot of the individual matchups. I loved watching Alma Schultz. Anna Morehouse had a good game as well. Um, it's just there was so many good things that were going on the field that like the soccer diehards loved. But and so like from the KC current standpoint, I think the result is good. It's good. I think from an NWSL standpoint, I'll say this, what I don't like is things used out of context to try and hype up beef. And CBS tried to do that with like Temwa's comments in the post game presser from the game against Utah. I did not like that because that was unfair and throwing Temwa, a player who was being very respectful of Orlando in the moment and talking about how it was, something similar. And they kind of glanced over the question that was actually asked by Kathleen Geyer and just used, kind of dubbed their own voices over it of the question and used Tim was as like if is something still there between these two. Um, and I just thought it was a little bit extra heavy work to try and trump up a game that didn't deliver that type of thing because and I'll get off my soapbox here shortly, Dad. But in the greater scheme of it, like the WNBA has thrived on Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese and the villainy around both in the polarizing villainy of these young rookies that all these aging vets came in and said, oh, we're going to teach them a lesson. They're going to learn.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, Angel Reese doing stuff that's never been done before. Caitlin Clark doing stuff that's never been done before by rookies. Like Cheryl Swoop's like MVP season numbers. Caitlin Clark has put up that stat line in her rookie year. Like that, like we're talking about like there's legitimate talent in this, and that like the virality of it drew eyeballs like nothing else to the WNBA. And you have this moment where Marta goes off on the field. It's this high tense battle between the two. Women's soccer has grown immensely within the country and the landscape. And a lot of eyes, casual eyes, were on that game. And it didn't deliver the blows that you wanted to see, the goals, not one yellow card in a game that had a red card for multiple yellows in the first time around. Like, so I understand it. I from a soccer side, and like both coaches are probably happy that their team got in and out clean. No yellow cards. No, you nobody concedes a goal. You do what you want to limit the other team. You yourself just couldn't do it because the one-on-one battles were so good. From a soccer side, it's great. From a greater perspective, though, I'm sad that the game didn't deliver the type of attention-grabbing action in the match that it could have, because that match certainly could have, and it just did not. And I think like the first one even you go Barbara Banda goal immediately. Temo responds, taking it up like the whole length of the field by herself and scoring. Like those were like, hello, look at us moments. And that just didn't happen in the rematch. And when the rematch comes, you want those moments to happen. So that's all that disappointed me in the match that way. But from a pure soccer perspective, it's what the current needed.
Yeah, I totally agree with that's what the current needed. They needed a shutout result. It would have been nice for them to get the goal. Blanco will say,
Yeah, obviously it's a good result, even though there's a little bit of disappointment within our group because we felt like we played good enough to win the game. We held Orlando to literally one shot on goal from inside of the box, which is pretty good, and to play them away, and we know how good they are. But then on the other side, I thought we created good enough opportunities to score goals. And when you play a team like that, we're not going to create 10 opportunities and score 3 goals to win it. You create three good chances, you score one, and defend well, and you win the game 1-0. Obviously, we defended well, which is a great positive for us, and we just didn't get the one that we needed.
we don't need 10 chances to score a goal. We've got 3 chances. We should be able to score a goal and then get the win. That's the way he's seeing it. So I understand. She was a little bit on an island of her own, it felt like a lot in that game.
Mhm.
until Bia and Cooper came in, and then that kind of changed. She got some better opportunities, I believe. Again, like you said, from the soccer side, it was a good match.
Yeah,
It was a good game. It's for baseball nerds, they can watch a no hit 0-0 game going into extra innings and be enthralled by it.
mhm,
The non-baseball nerds will hate that, right?
right.
So this is one of those games where you and I are looking at this like, oh, that was a great run. That was a good chance, but there was really last minute defending. That was a good save. It was, oh, they played that right to get push her just a little bit wider so she didn't have a good angle and all these little things that we look at and go, oh, that was good. And
Yeah,
then, but somebody who's just looking for creating headlines, and I didn't realize CBS had done that with the audio from Tim Watt, but
not CBS, Prime.
Prime, okay,
If I said CBS in the beginning, I apologize
I believe
because
you
I
said
probably did.
CBS.
But it was Prime, so I take that back.
Okay,
But yes, sorry CBS, sorry Paramount, Golasso folks, we love you.
yeah,
Paramount or Prime, I got a little bit of a bone to pick there,
okay.
but
With whoever did it, but like you said, it was on Prime. I was thinking that you'd seen something somewhere else. So
that's my bad.
it's okay. We corrected this. We're okay. Um, but yeah, it's just sad that anybody is doing that for any reason. There's too much stupidity in this world on every level. We don't need to hype up that stuff. With that result, the current are in fourth place
Mhm.
and will be have returned home and will be facing the Washington Spirit on Friday night.
Yep.
Hopefully, for the current, Bia and Cooper will have a little more time on the field.
Mhm.
Asked Cooper today, I said, are you getting close to 90-minute fit? She's like,
I would hope, I would like to stay close. I mean, I don't really know what's going on, honestly. I just show up every day ready to work. But yeah, I don't ask too many questions.
I'd ask Vlaco about Bia, and he's very much about we're just bringing her along. We're not going to rush it,
Mhm.
very coach speak. But they just want her to be good and healthy for the playoffs and not as worried about the last few games of the season. So,
Yeah.
what did
I
you?
Oh, go ahead.
I was just to say, what did you see the difference? Because to me, there was a very clear difference of how that game was going prior to Bia and Cooper coming on, and very clear difference after. I was to say, what did
Yeah.
you see?
Um, One, I think the current could finally move the ball through the middle again. They had a central target and reference point. Um, it's not that they couldn't, but they were, Nichelle Prince is like a get in behind kind of a striker. And when she plays there. And when she's a winger, that's also what she's going to tuck inside and be an inside forward, which is kind of why I feel like they've had her central the last two games, just because when she tucks inside and they lose their width in in those scenarios, and that front almost too close to Temwa and in the same spaces that Temwa might want to operate in. And so it kind of messes things up there. You put Temwa back out wide in the shell there, they can kind of how they did run, they basically ran as a one and a two striker, and kept pushing around like that. The one thing that um in this one, the moment Bia came on, it was they found her, but then she found others, and the runs that she makes as a striker, like there was a couple where she pulled the left center back out of position and low from a kind of a wide-ish central area is playing this curled ball into Temba, where now it's Temba one-on-one with the center back, and if she gets in behind and can turn her, she's 1v1 with the goalkeeper and can score. It and at that moment, because that happens, then the fullback is over there jamming in to try and double team Temwa because they were hell bent on not letting her get a sniff of an opportunity. And then at that would leave somebody like a Michelle Cooper or even Dabinia skating in at the back post with a late run to also um, finish off those chances. So you could see just how quickly the timing of the ball movement and the player runs, the connection of it all, how it all came together into a picture of the attack that we just haven't seen in quite a while for this team. And it looked more dangerous outside of like hit it to Temwa and she'll score, which they've been able to thrive upon for the most part. But she has scored their last like 8 or 9 NWSL goals, and no one else has scored for the team since. And so I think with Bia's introduction, you could just see how much it made it easier for everyone
Yeah.
to play. And it's not a knock on Nichelle Prince. It's just not her style. There's not a player on the team and arguably the league that can do the true hold-up striker work that Bia does. And that I think was just a game changer for a moment. And I think if they could have had her on the field for 45 minutes to actually crack open and get a goal.
Yeah, I would not have been surprised. I mean, they came close as it was.
Hmm.
Again, like you said, not a knock on Nichelle Prince. She's just a different player. But with the progress that Cooper has made this year, becoming just a power forward, defensive uh, person up front, where she's attacking the ball, winning the ball, and creating turnovers up there. And I kind of asked this to Vlaco today about, that Bia and Cooper was able to help the high press. Very clearly made them two different answers there about Cooper doing this, but Bia cutting out the lines, like playing the lines well so that it limited the opportunities to play the ball and things like that. It was the
Mhm.
smart play. She wasn't being the super physical,
Mhm.
which is exactly what I was seeing. I just didn't ask the question very well. Sometimes that happens.
Yeah.
Um, it's one thing that when the Current are at their best, they can attack the ball carrier, whoever has the ball, and they're forcing them into only a couple of options. And if they go forward, it's a spot into where the Current can intercept it or attack that player pretty easily.
Yeah.
That's when they're at their best, and that's when Bia and everybody is doing all those things that they can do. So it'll be really great for them to be more
Hmm.
minutes, more
Yeah.
minutes.
Yeah, for sure. Um, Kind of going back to other things we saw in that game, just the one-on-one battles, especially on the wings. Um, like it was very clear to me that Vlaco started Haley on the left-hand side because he wanted to match her up one-on-one with Adriana, and
She did
Haley
well.
Mace clearly won that battle.
Yeah.
Like there was every single time Adriana got on the ball, Haley Mace was there, and like she denied service constantly, she denied shots. I mean, it was a incredible work, and you saw it at towards the end of the second half there. They completely went away from even touching the right side of the field. They were just working the left-hand side because they thought they could try and pick on the rookie, and Ellie Wheeler held her own as well. So it was just one of those like the 1v1 matchups in that wide area allowed everyone and how they were played by both Ellie, who's been very good defensively one-on-one. I mean, we mentioned her one-on-one against Trinity in the Spirit game, how well she did in that as a left back, and Haley being, in my opinion, the stronger defender than Ellie. Had the harder matchup with Adriana out on the left. But like the current when that happens, it allows the center backs to only worry about Barbara Banda, and it allows the midfielders to only worry about Marta, because Angelina and the other midfielder that they had that whose name is escaping me, they're not like attacking midfielders. They're not midfielders that are going to jump in to the attack from deep. I mean, they're the Orlando attack is those four players. It's Marta, it's the left winger, it's Banda, and it's Adriana, and that's it. And so, like to be able to break them down into such a manageable situation because they handled those 1v1 battles out wide. Was a testament to the tactical matchup from Vlaco, and picking those battles correctly, and like just the overall player work from both Haley and Ellie. I mean, I don't know how many times we said before the season, I'm not sure if Haley can be a fullback in a back four, and now I think she could handle the back any position in a back four, even including center back, like admirably.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I mean, we based all of that on what we saw from her before, and what we're seeing now is the growth and the
Mhm.
maturity that this team has just solidified into. I mean, they're not going to be perfect, but just all the little things You hear coaches, Matt Potter used to do that, get 1% better every day, which is you can't do. But just
Mm.
listening to Vlaco today, again, talk about, um, you know, things that they're trying to do that's trying to think of the right words that he used, but just each like layer and platform that they grow through to get better. And sometimes they have to take another step because of different players or different ones that are healthy. But just going through that and they're just getting better, which is a hallmark of a lot of Vlaco's teams in the past, is they start if they may not start well, if they start well, they get better. If they don't start well, they get better. And
Yeah.
that's the strength of him as a club coach for damn sure.
Yeah. And I think like like even just like looking at this from the last matchup between the two, like I'll be curious to see how it all plays out this time around because I think it's a different look that the current will be able to put out there against them. Um and that to have the type of wingers in Ashley Hatch and Trinity Rodman that they have in Washington, I think like showing that Haley and Ellie could win those 1v1 matchups um, out wide. I will say this, I was really impressed by that winger that Orlando brought on in the second half on the left-hand side. Um, her name was escaping me, and Ellie did really well against her, but
Evelina, Evelina Duljan,
mm,
Dujan.
yeah, yes. Um, Goodness, excuse me. I have a cough drop in my mouth, and somehow I choked on the cough drop.
Uh,
Anyways, it was just one of those things like this is going to be a matchup that the current have to win those white spaces again because of the way that you know, this team in Washington will want to play. And, they got beat there in some bad situations. At times, they also got beat in the final shot stopping, but that's where some of those chances came from. So the fact that they've been better there the last couple of weeks, in managing those 1v1 battles out wide, I think should lend to hopefully a better performance against Washington this time around.
yeah, that's one of those where I believe Vlaco and others have said that they don't feel the score reflected the game, but that's soccer sometimes. Different players, different situations, and I also remember that was a really hot game for them when they hadn't had a lot of hot games, so they probably were a little bit disadvantaged in that. So there was a lot of things that came into play with that. Uh, and then also, having done so well during the Summer Cup, and then all of a sudden they're into league play again. Maybe they weren't quite fully adjusted back for that. Although I'm,
Yeah.
I'm sure Blanco would disagree with me on that one. But yeah, I do expect a much better match. The
Mhm.
current need to get at least a point off of them, preferably a win.
Yeah. If the current with Gotham winning over the weekend, um, the current are now down into fourth place in the standings by a point. A win against Washington could help get them back into the mix there. Um, but yeah, they're 7 points away from fifth. So you would think that there's a pretty good chance that that they'll get that home game in the first round. But having to go on the road against potentially a Gotham or Washington, or even Orlando before the final for a semifinal, that's a tough task in case unless one of those teams gets upset. But Bay FC has not looked very strong at all. They're in the final playoff spot by 3 points, and they have 11 losses this year. The Red Stars have 10 losses. They are also in seventh. These teams kind of down in that 6, 7, 8 mark are a good matchup for the first round, a winnable matchup for the current. But playing against in a spot where you might be playing against the Courage or the Thorns is not a place that I think that the current want to be in with that 4 seed. So I think they're going to want to try and get back up, put themselves in a spot where maybe they can play home soccer throughout the playoffs if they can get one of the top two seeds. But yeah, I mean this is one of those matches that you would call it a 6-pointer,
Yep.
for sure.
The next two matches are Spirit and
Yeah.
Gotham, both at home. Both, I don't want to call them must wins because that's obviously not quite true, but
Mhm,
both are really crucial for them to be in a good spot to have that home field advantage through the playoffs.
mhm.
Because if they're in second, they have home field advantage through the playoffs.
Yep.
That's just like that's the way it turns out with Kansas City hosting the final.
Yep.
So it's kind of crucial that they get good results with both of them and try to climb back over top of them.
Mhm,
And after that, so that's their the next two tough matches, Spirit and Gotham. But then it's Louisville, the Wave, and Red Stars, which are all winnable matches.
mhm.
Uh, the Wave are here in Kansas City, but the Louisville and the Red Stars are on the road. So both of those are winnable. What else do we need to talk about here, man?
I don't know, Thad. You tell me. You're the host. Come on now. Just kidding.
Yeah, but it's not a just straight normal host job here. And sometimes we don't exactly have a full rundown of what we're going to talk about other than the 5 seconds before we hit record. Uh, we've talked about in the past the defense has kind of solidified now, hopefully.
Mhm.
Almuth making some great saves. Sharples and Alana
Mhm.
are a good team at this point.
Yeah.
I was a little surprised to see ball out wide, but that kind of made sense with the moves that he did to
Mhm.
play against Orlando. Uh,
Mhm.
Midfield, we pretty much know what we got there, except until we can get Claire Hutton back, as long as she's healthy.
Yeah. Um, I did like Vanessa and Lowe in the double pivot. Um, I thought it worked well. Um, it was attacking enough. It was defensive enough. Vanessa's really good number 10. And I like some of the things that she picks out when she plays that high, especially when Claire is there. But with Claire, Dabinia all in the mix, she may not need to be as advanced. Um, in some of these roles in the future. So being able to see her kind of play in that hole in the double pivot with Low was a good sign of that they'll find ways to have her on the field, because I think her ability to move the ball and do it accurately as a passer and a late runner into the box, a shot from outside the box, is very useful to have.
Yeah, the just everything about this team has been just as a positive, as players sliding into slightly different positions, having different tactics to win those games. Um, it's just been very much all a positive.
Yep.
Um, and they get a few days. They don't have to, they play on Friday, but they're not too, uh, caught up for time. So they get a little bit of training in, get a little bit more healthy, and it'll be should be an interesting game. On a completely different note, because I wanted to just mention this, the UMKC. I've been following UMKC women's soccer a little bit more this fall, and they have been doing really, really well. They were 5-0-3 going into this last match. They finally dropped a game, 1-0 at Creighton, before they go into their Summit League play. But they had been doing really well, had only given up 2 goals, had scored 10. And the 2 goals they'd given up had been 4 seconds left in the game and 12 seconds left in the game until this game at Creighton. And there was a penalty called, which, because of local viewing habits, I was not able to watch it. So I don't really know if that how just it was, but it was a penalty, and that was what they lost on at Creighton. So they've been doing really well. So if you have any interest, go out and see the UMKC Rue women. The men have been doing well, but not as well as the women. Any last words?
Go Ruse.
Rue
No,
up.
just grew up. Yeah, nothing. No last words. Just thanks for listening, folks, as always.
And let us know what we can do better. And We are out.